We appreciate all of you taking time to attend this competition. Your support is appreciated by all of our participants. Competitors, please come and take your place up front. Writing is allowed after all competitors have been seated. As our room chairman has mentioned, the competitors have been briefed on the competition and realize that their general discussion should be directed toward each other rather than the audience. In my role as moderator, I will not attempt to control or direct this discussion. Remember, the discussion is meant to replicate a committee meeting, not a panel discussion with point, counterpoint, and an active moderator. As such, I will not intervene unless or until disparaging or inappropriate remarks are made. With that in mind, the burden is on the competitors to moderate themselves and conduct themselves in a cooperative and congenial manner. Congratulations on your advancement to the final round. The competitors for this round are Mike Hanewald, Jacob Meisner, Doug Giles, and Natalie Olsner. We will begin this discussion with a 30-second opening statements for each competitor. Following the opening statement will be 20 minutes of open discussion, followed by 1 minute of quiet time for the competitors to prepare their 1-minute closing statement. Competitors, in voluntary order, make your 30-second opening statements. Please stand and direct your opening statements to the audience. The timer will indicate when your 30 seconds have elapsed by holding up the red card. You may now begin.
Agriculture is America's greatest industry, employing 17% of our total workforce. However, agriculture education is under threat because of funding cuts, shortage of teachers, and also false reports in the media. We must continue to support agriculture education because without it, the future of agriculture looks dim. I look forward to discussing this topic today with this panel and what role Farm Bureau plays in solving this problem.
Unfortunately, none of us can live forever. As agriculture leaders, it's up to us to ensure that the next generation of agriculture leaders are well prepared to take on our roles. That starts with ag education programs. It's important for us as young farmers and ranchers to be able to ensure that they get the skills necessary to be able to ensure that agriculture will remain strong into the future. I look forward to discussing how Farm Bureau can reach out to the ag education industry and ensure the viability into the future.
I believe in the future of agriculture. These words are spoken by nearly every high school FFA member when they learn the FFA Creed. But one thing we must realize is that agricultural education expands far beyond the traditional high school FFA chapter. Farm Bureau has the people and the resources to be able to reach out to schools all across the country beyond our traditional ag ed programs. I look forward to discussing with you what Farm Bureau can do to ensure that more students can one day say that they can be a part of the future of agriculture.
It is the year 2013. Today, where would our industry be without new, youthful generations developing drought-resistant crops or creating alternative fuel resources? It is the role of Farm Bureau to find a way to sustain the viability of quality ag education programs within our school. We can do this through physical and financial resources, providing job opportunities, and creating innovative new programs for our youth. I look forward to our discussion today.
You have heard the opening statements. The competitors may now proceed with the discussion. Competitors, please direct your discussion to your fellow panel members.
I think an important question to ask ourselves when we start this topic is first to define what a quality agricultural education program is and really establish a good foundation for what that means. So what are your thoughts on what is a quality ag ed program?
Well, I believe when I think of a quality ag ed program is that we have those three circles of ag education, SAE, FFA, and classroom. But for some instructors, not all instructors can focus on all three aspects of this. And we have to reach out beyond that by developing partnerships, marketing, connecting with people in the community, and Farm Bureau can play a huge role in that. If we think of some of the opportunities that are available for ag ed students now, what are we really looking at? We have to look at relevancy for students. I, for example, don't come from a background that is agriculturally based, and if we look at our conference here today, there are lots of competitors in this competition that weren't either because of quality ag education programs. I think there are a couple of ways that we can reach out and really provide relevancy to students like myself and maybe a few of us here, providing different resources that Farm Bureau can help out with, whether that's physical or financial. What other thoughts do we have on that?
Well, I think that the three-circle model really shows us a comprehensive agriculture program. But like you had mentioned, some places just can't handle one circle or another. And in some instances, ag education programs don't have an FFA chapter. And so it's important for us to understand that chapter programs can be successful minus one of those circles. And so I think that it branches down to the type of instructor that we have, the resources that they have available, and I think that's a key area where Farm Bureau can really take hold and improve our ag education programs through embracing our instructors, because it's great to reach out to the kids, but after the next year, you have to start all over square one, whereas with the teacher, it's year after year after year, and you can build on that foundation. So I think providing them with the resources necessary for a quality ag education program is really essential at starting the conversation on a quality program.
I think you're absolutely right, Jacob, and I'm so glad that you brought up the instructor's role in agriculture education, because I think that's probably the most important part. I don't think there's any such thing as a bad student, just poor teachers. But I don't think that we have bad students resulting from poor teachers in agriculture education right now. I think it's the resources that they have, like you were saying. In doing my research, I found that agriculture education in colleges, post-secondary schools, have declined in the last 10 years. So we're losing teachers to that, and this was definitely a big issue to agriculture education on a national level. At the end of last month, there was a National Ag Ed Summit in Indianapolis, Indiana, and their focus was on teacher retention and recruitment. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have in quality agriculture education, is bringing new and good teachers in to fill those spots. So I guess, what can we do at Farm Bureau to encourage more teachers to go into agriculture education, or more students to? And maybe that's one of the things we need to look at problem solving later on.
Doug, I'm sorry, did you have something?
Go ahead.
Okay, I thought that was a really great idea. I think that Farm Bureau can provide a resource in providing job opportunities for students in local areas. I myself is not going to be a farmer or a rancher, and the reality is that not all ag students are going to be farmers or ranchers, that they can reach out to ag education and different opportunities such as that. And I think that Farm Bureau can play a resource for that, whether that's career fairs with different types of jobs that are available in this industry, and representing those in these career fairs. They can also help out by getting students involved in how they get these jobs, resume building nights, job interview practices, or even just getting involved in coaching an SAE team, whether that's a job interview team, speaking team, or whatever that may be. And we need to provide those resources as well.
While I really think that high school education programs is what we all think of when we think of an ag program. And while that's really a key component, we have to also remember that ag education starts at such a deeper level. Whether it's being ag in the classroom programs at the kindergarten level, or all the way up to post-secondary education with Collegiate Farm Bureau programs, ag education is a process like the education system that never stops. And so I think that we also have to look broader and look into how are we preparing all teachers, not just ag instructors or not just ag folks, to talk about ag education. And that's where I really think that Farm Bureau has an opportunity to embrace ag in the classroom, as well as junior high programs. I know in my state, it's something that we've lacked a lot in the past, and nationwide, ag programs in middle schools just aren't that common. Some states are making it work, but it's more and more difficult to find an ag program in the middle school that bridges that gap between ag in the classroom to high school programs, and then into Collegiate Farm Bureau, and then Young Farmers and Ranchers. So I'd be interested to see what you think about middle school programs.
Yeah, I think, Jacob, you brought up that excellent point that ag education goes far beyond the traditional high school model that we think of, and that Farm Bureau can definitely do a lot to reach out to those audiences. You know, for example, one of the key audiences I think we need to focus on is elementary students, because if a third grader can learn at a young age what the process that goes put into raising a beef steer and the products that are produced from a beef steer, then when they get to be, seniors in high school and into college, they're probably going to be able to confront, maybe there's an advocacy activist or someone on campus, and they'll be like, well, I remember in third grade when we learned about that, and I don't think that's really that bad. I think farmers do a lot of good things. And so we can really also reach out to that younger audience. I think let's take a moment, and before we move into some more solutions, what are some other audiences that we can reach out to and really focus on, and then we can identify a key audience from there?
Well, I think one of the key audiences that outside of just the students themselves is our alumni and our Farm Bureau members. A lot of times they go hand in hand, and they're really our folks on the front line when it comes to advocating to our school boards and to our legislators about the issues that are facing ag education and the funding itself. And I think that Farm Bureaus have a responsibility of sorts to talk to them and show them you're a key ally in this fight on making sure that ag education is viable in our schools. You're the ones that have gone through the experience, whether it be just having ag in the classroom in your elementary school and never going through ag education, or going all the way through ag education, earning your American degree and being really involved with it. You've gotten the skills out of it, you've gotten the experiences. Now it's your turn to turn around and ensure those opportunities that you experience for the future generations. And I think that a training program of sorts might be an awesome idea to talk about the advocacy. We always talk about getting out there and making sure your voice is heard. And I think a county farm bureau would do a lot of good in their communities by teaching their alumni how to advocate for their programs.
That's a great...
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, that's a great point that you make there, Jacob, and I'd like to take it one step further in as far as educating our members, not just about how to reach out and that we need to reach out, but also educating our Farm Bureau members on how much agricultural education has changed since many of them have been in high school. You know, I mean, my dad talks about when he was in the FFA in his high school and talks about learning to weld and building wood projects, and those are great programs that we need to keep and sustain. But at the same time, agriculture, and all farmers know this, agriculture is so technology-based. I mean, you've got biotechnology and you've got chemical formulations and, you know, all those high-tech scientific fields that we need engineers, biochemists, things like that. And ag education programs today aren't just preparing people to go back home to the farm, they're also preparing people for those careers. And so to open up those doors to our members as well, I think is key. What are some other audiences that we need to reach out to?
I think one of the biggest things that we need to look at is yes, it is great that our alumni is advocating for agriculture education, and I think that our lobbyists on Capitol Hill play a huge role in that. But I think we have to bring it back to the teachers, and this is where alumni really comes in big time, is getting those county board members and farmers and even associate members involved with our teachers and teaching them about agriculture in the classroom, getting them hooked up with our headquarters on our local Farm Bureau federations and getting them those lesson plans, because these are the people that see these children every single day, and they are the ones that can make the real impact. And I think we can really look at having a pipeline go through when you start at the elementary school level with agriculture in the classroom, as Jacob mentioned, and then there's the gap, there's the middle school. And I think what we need to start looking at is informing more middle school science teachers about garden grants and getting them involved and have them outside working in the garden and growing those crops, and maybe even using that and bring it back into the cafeteria for local grown food, and then that will feed into agriculture education in high school, and then that moves into college, and then all of a sudden we have tons more YF&R members, Farm Bureau members, and a much more successful agriculture industry as a whole. Natalie, I see you nodding your head. Do you have anything to bring to that?
Yeah, I'm following on the same track as the three of you right now, and I'm really branching some ideas out in my head. One thing I jotted down was we mentioned ag alumni and people in our community. Let's think about our general community around these ag programs. I myself come from an ag program that is largely supported by the community because we've had a lot of success, and we have that success because we have quality teachers with the resources that they need, and a community will support that program that is successful. However, if a program wants to become successful, they need the support from the community, which is exactly what I'm trying to get towards, is we need community members that are educated about agriculture, that will support agriculture. And we have educated community members. We not only have support in our school systems, but we also have support when people go to the polls and vote on ag issues, which is extremely important as well. We need to have that community support in order to support our ag programs and our instructors. What are some ways that we can reach out to our community members at Farm Bureau, maybe allowing them to become members of Farm Bureau and really support our ag programs? What are some thoughts on that?
Well, you know, one thing that just popped in my head when you were talking about some schools are successful because of their community support, and other schools haven't been able to be successful because the community just doesn't know about their program. And back in my state, we have a lot of acquaintance programs. Each of the counties host an acquaintance program for their local FFA chapters to get acquainted with Farm Bureau members and get them in the door with Farm Bureau. But I think that we could almost flip that around and have the Farm Bureaus host an acquaintance day for the community just get the local FFA chapters to have an open house of sorts where they bring in the community, show them that this is what we're doing, this is the skills that we're learning, these are the opportunities that we're getting faced with, and show them that without your community support, we're not able to have this success. And I think that Farm Bureau would have an excellent opportunity there to sponsor that, to publicize it, to really embrace the opportunity to bring the community inside, advertise it to their associate members that may not know directly about the ag programs, and really embrace all of our members in order to show the success of our ag programs.
I think that's a great point there, Jacob. And we've brought up a lot of really good audiences to reach out to, especially focusing on middle school students, since there's currently no programs there for them, elementary students, current Farm Bureau members, alumni, and the community as a whole. Now, I'd like to take a kind of a turn in our discussion here, and let's talk about what are some of the programs and outreaches, if there are any, in your own states that your farm bureaus do to reach out to your ag education programs, because in addition to building new programs, we can always find ways to make the current programs even better. So for example, one example in Ohio where I come from is a friend of mine was telling me about how their county farm bureau makes up a list of service projects, because one of the new requirements for the FFA degrees is that you have to complete a certain number of service hours, and so then they partner with their FFA chapter to do that. Another program we do in Ohio was done at a local museum. It's a science museum designed for younger students, and Farm Bureau worked to organize it and sought out corporate sponsors to help pay for it, and we can have a food and farm display at the local museum where a lot of classes go to for field trips and get to explore. So what are some things that your states are doing to help to connect Farm Bureau and ag education?
I know that one thing that I've heard in other states, and it's not something that we do in our state, but I would really push for it, is mini grants. And that's something that anyone or any instructor, K through 12, can apply online for their Farm Bureau County website and apply for a $250 grant to do a Ag in the Classroom lesson. What a great way to reach out to not only high school students, but elementary school instructors as well. I know there's lots of free online resources as well that our state ag program advocates for and pushes for as well, that people can just go online and, oh, here's a great lesson that I can use in my classroom. And what a great resource that people can use. Not only can they get the funding for that, but they can get the free online resources as well that they can utilize in their classroom. For example, I have a very close friend of mine whose sister is a teacher in a rural community at an elementary school. She worked on a dairy, and the one thing that she teaches to our class once a week is she goes online and she looks up a lesson for that week and she teaches it. And it may take an hour, 2 hours of that day. But what's really important is that we're giving elementary school students, young children in our schools, a background in agriculture, whether it's on a large scale or just learning how to plant a seed, and that's such great importance. What thoughts do you have on that?
I think those are great ideas, and one of the coolest things that we've done in my state is sort of like that, giving those younger generations the experience of being around agriculture, and that's, we put on something called Ag Fun Fair at our Department of Agriculture in Nashville, and it allows Davidson County Schools, which is the metropolitan Nashville area, to come in and just walk around and see the different types of livestock, grain, forages, and learn a little bit about them. And you'd be surprised how many people think that chocolate milk comes from a Jersey cow. And being able to just touch that one child and be able to make that connection between milk comes from cows, not from Kroger, is an amazing accomplishment. And I hate to do this, but I mean, I know we've got a limit here, but one of the major problems in agriculture education right now is definitely the funding cuts. I know right now Perkins funding is in Appropriations Committee and is going to be working its way down, hopefully, but it could take 2.5 years to do that like it did last time. But the Office of Vocational and Adult Education is proposing another act that would take over for Perkins that would put funding in post-secondary instead of just secondary and post-secondary. So I think we really need to start looking at that and what Farm Bureau can do on Capitol Hill to save our agricultural education in the high school classroom.
And I think this comes back to what we talked about a little bit ago with the local advocacy training and talking to our alumni members and our community members. This is a grassroots organization, and that's the glory of the American Farm Bureau, is it can start at the ground level and work its way all the way to the top. And I think that by showing our community members the importance that ag education has on these students, on whether they come from a background in agriculture or not, showing that success and the skills that they develop, the life skills that they will use into the future is so important in order to be able to advocate for ag education programs. And then that works its way up to the state level and onto the national level with the Perkins funding. And it all boils down to local advocacy. And I think that what we talked about earlier with training and just showing the people what we're really doing with these ag ed programs is so important in order to maintain ag education programs in our communities. It not only keeps them going, but it is a way for us to showcase to other schools that may be struggling.
Jacob, I apologize. Go ahead.
Thank you. I really like your point, Doug, about funding, because that is a big issue, even especially in my state in Ohio. And I'd like to bring up something. I was having a conversation with a former National FFA officer, Landon Schaffert, and he was telling me about how National FFA right now is working to try and connect the Ohio Department of Agriculture, the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, with the United States Department of Education. And because FFA and Ag Ed falls under education, but how can we connect the two so agriculture can help to provide more of that contact? And they've actually established a liaison. Now, if Farm Bureau could take our lobbying power that we currently have and be able to reinforce an initiative like that, that can really help both USDA and USDE be able to realize the importance of this issue. And then at the same time, there's an example on the national level. At the same time, Farm Bureau is a grassroots organization. If there is for example, my home FFA chapter at one time was at risk of being cut because of funding issues. And thank goodness the local FFA alumni got together and had a great showing at the school board meeting to say, hey, this is really important. But there's a lot of chapters that don't have that kind of a successful alumni. So what if Farm Bureau could be able to stay on top of things, and if something comes up, get a lot of their members together and be at that board meeting to emphasize the importance? What other thoughts can we use to address this funding issue?
I actually had a really great thought on that, and we mentioned things about grassroots organizations, about it really starting at the county level. And I truly believe, and I'm very passionate for that, that's where our organization starts when it comes to contributing to ag education. I, for example, in my own state, have seen 2 ag programs that were once very strong lose funding for those programs. And those county farm bureaus, as you said, joined those members together and created an ag day for people in that community to come out and contribute financial and moral support, financial resources and moral support to that program so that they can continue to thrive. As I've said, it starts at the county level. We need to build community support if we want to sustain the quality ag educational programs. And when we have community success and at a county level, we can build thriving ag education programs throughout the nation.
Exactly. It really boils down to that county level, and I think that's where we can all take home a point from this discussion today is heading back home to our colleges and heading back home to our communities and really showcasing the importance of the advocacy portion of Farm Bureau, whether we're an alumni, whether we're engaged in the ag education system itself. We all have a duty to be a voice for ag education programs, just like we're a voice for agriculture. And I think that's really where we have strength today, is taking what we've talked about, be it the funding issues or the importance of teachers or the importance of the community, and show that to our communities and to our legislators.
I think we've definitely talked a lot about it, and I know we're running short on time. And I just want to kind of recap everything that we've really been talking about, because I think some great points have come out. And just kind of the things that I'm trying to take away from this is, one, we need to inform our teachers and create that pipeline of education from agriculture in the classroom all the way up through college. And then I guess the second step is community engagement. And then the third and final thing would be advocacy on the Hill.
Time has been called. Please prepare your closing statements. I ask that the audience remain silent for 1 minute to aid competitors in their preparation. Please put down your pencils, and in voluntary order, please stand and give your 1-minute closing statement.
Agricultural education is not a problem that we're going to solve today or tomorrow or even next week. But after the discussion, I believe we've come up with a 3-step strategic plan. 1, to inform our teachers and create a pipeline starting with agriculture in the classroom all the way up through post-secondary school. The second thing, get the community involved. Engage our Farm Bureau members, board of directors, and also our associate members, and even those that aren't involved in Farm Bureau with these schools. And the third and final thing, continue to advocate for agriculture education, career and technical education, and education. If we can do this, not only will we secure our success in the industry, but we will continue to celebrate these traditions and embrace the changes that these young students will bring to our industry.
Our students are the future of our industry and of our society as a whole. And today we had a great discussion about what we can do for those students to help them, to provide them with the skills and abilities that they need. We talked about the 3-circle model of agricultural education and how it defines a quality program. We moved on to some new audiences that we can reach out to and fill some maybe gaps in our current programming. Then we went on to talk about some current programs that have worked well and how we can build upon those. And finally, we focused in on funding and what Farm Bureau can do both on a national, state, and local level to help to solve the funding issues that our ag ed programs face. Ultimately, we need to address this issue in order to be able to ensure a successful future for agriculture. And all of us as collegiate FFA members, or collegiate Farm Bureau members, can take this message home and emphasize its importance to our county boards. So from that local grassroots level, we can really make a difference and ensure that we have a future of students and agricultural workers who can ensure that we can feed, fuel, and clothe the world for many years to come.
This evening we talked about lots of different things relating to ag education, and it just goes to show how complex the ag education system is. Whether it's advocating at the local level and educating our community members about the success of our programs, ensuring quality teachers, or making sure that ag education is a continual process from K through 12 and beyond. We've all discussed the importance of ag education and Farm Bureau's role in making sure it's a success. I look forward to going back home and trying to implement these things in my county and state farm bureaus. As young agricultural leaders and myself, a former state FFA officer, we've all gained skills that are necessary to develop traditional life skills into the future. It's our job to ensure that future generations also have these opportunities, or else we're putting our work to waste.
I strongly believe that this country was built on education, and most importantly, our industry was built on education. Where would we be without new, strong ag programs supporting agriculture industry in this nation? Whether it's community support, advocating for ag, or physical and financial resources for our students and instructors, it is so important that we sustain the viability of ag ed programs in our nation to create new leaders in our industry, like many we have here today. I'd like to thank you all for a great innovative discussion today, and good luck to all of you.
Let's show these competitors our appreciation for a job well done.